Hey, howdy. I'm back. I'm not dead. It was a long weekend, and now I'm going to tell you how Aaron Burr was tried for treason. Okay, let me back up for a second before I go on a tangent. So, where the heck have I been? Um, over the weekend, at my grandmother's request, we all piled in the car and went to Graceland, which was quite an experience. Especially since I was probably the oldest person there. Hang on, what are the dailies again? Sacra Forest, Chess World, Dragon Statue World. Yeah. Okay, this place is a... No, wait, I have Memory Guard. Never mind, this is easy. Okay. So I guess we do Sacra Forest first. So, Graceland. Something you should know about Graceland, for those who have never heard of it in their lives, it is a American theme park slash national slash what's the word for it? It's basically an Elvis national park. I think is the best way to describe it. It's just a massive building that incorporates Elvis Presley's original house, which he called Graceland, and just turns it into an amusement park, essentially. Now, was it entirely worth the trip? I don't know. It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience in a sense of the word. But I could say that about making breakfast this morning, so... I don't know. I thought it was kind of interesting. I probably wouldn't go back again. Not really sure what like significant things I can talk about that happened while I was there. I mean, probably the most entertaining part for me had nothing to do with Elvis Presley at all. Across from where we were staying, there's this super like crazy fancy hotel called the Peabody. And the Peabody is famous, well, for being a really fancy hotel in Memphis, but also it's famous for the ducks. That you walk inside, you make it into like the sanctum area where they have like a bar and a big carpeted area and a little fountain. And every day, give or take, a bunch of ducks will waddle into the lobby, sit in the fountain for a while, and then there's even like a little step stool that leads out of the fountain so that they can safely get out of the fountain and walk back up to wherever the heck they actually live. So my favorite part was the ducks. As for Graceland itself, it was interesting as a historical thing. It was interesting as a historical piece, but you can definitely tell that the place never really recovered from COVID. I think my dad was telling me the numbers, and it was something like, before COVID, annual admission was 500,000. Post-COVID, it was 20,000, or 20,000, 200,000, and the year after 2020, in 2022, then, in 2020 it was 20,000, 2022 it was like 225, and then 2022 it's up to like 250K. So admission is not nearly as high as it used to be. Now, whether that's entirely because of COVID or more so because Elvis is pretty cleanly a generational thing, not entirely sure. But I could definitely tell that my brother and I were probably the youngest people there, apart from like one couple with their 8-year-old. Everyone else was over the age of 40. But, I mean, while I was there, I had some time to clear my head. And I come back bearing more weird stories about US presidents. As seems to be the theme at this point. So, actually, my story for today doesn't involve a US president directly. It does indirectly, but you'll see. It details the weird escapades of Aaron Burr. Now, Aaron Burr is usually known for one thing and basically one thing only. He is the guy who fatally wounded Alexander Hamilton in a duel. Now, to give a bit of context about duels, back in those days of American politics, duels were actually fairly common. They weren't legal, and in fact, I believe the punishment for a duel was death. That being said, people dueled anyway. I don't remember the number, but I seem to recall that Andrew Jackson dueled an absurd amount of people in particular. And another person that comes to mind is, I believe, Henry Clay? Also dueled someone? I forget exactly who. But the important thing is that duels were, like, a common thing. It's not just, like... I feel like with Hamilton, there were... When Hamilton came out, people heard that bit about how Hamilton was killed in a duel, but kind of assumed that duels were kind of a rare thing, and I feel like people assume it to be a lot more underhanded than it actually was. Now, speaking of underhanded, there's an interesting little detail that I haven't heard addressed before, and that's that Hamilton himself, I don't want to say he rigged the duel, but he certainly made it more interesting. Because the pistols that he brought, I mean, if anyone's ever fired a handgun before, it takes quite a lot of force to actually pull the trigger back. For most handguns, that is. There are hair trigger... Ooh, hello, whoa! I haven't seen this room. This is actually sick. That's really cool. But, normally, pistols take quite a lot of force to fire, and this is especially true for old pistols. And in the case of Hamilton's pistols that he brought for the duel, both of them were hair trigger. So you didn't need much force at all to actually fire them, finally. that took some doing. And now, one of these leads to Memory Garden. It's time to find out which one. All the way at the bottom, right on the left. There you are. Oh, wait. Weeklies in Dragon Statue World. Why did I immediately swap out? But I haven't gotten to the fun part yet. So, I mean, a little bit of extra context before I jump right into the story. Something you have to bear in mind is that Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson were great friends. So you can imagine Jefferson's response when he realized that Aaron Burr had killed one of his close friends in a duel. I imagine he was pissed off, as he probably would be. And Jefferson was probably, from what I understand, was looking for a way to do in Aaron Burr. Not going out of his way to duel him or anything, but certainly looking for a way to have his friend avenged. And that moment presented itself. Later in Aaron Burr's career, he assembled a group of people and settled near I want to say near the Ohio River Valley area, somewhere around there. And there was hearsay that him and his ragtag militia that he had assembled was planning to march all the way from the Ohio River Valley down to Texas to found a colony there. Now, keep in mind the time period that this was taking place. At the time, going down to like Texas or Spanish Florida was a terrible idea because the US had their hands full already just dealing with Britain. May as well go the rest of the route. So anyone who tried to invade Spanish territory, formally or informally, needed to be swiftly dealt with. At the same time, there was no real evidence that Burr was planning this. Nevertheless, he was tried by Jefferson on account of treason for the supposed plot. Now, this is a bit of a strange trial, because the more that it went on, the more that it became apparent that Jefferson didn't have any actual evidence that Aaron Burr had committed treason. And the longer the trial went on, the more he showed his hand that he was basically just doing this to spite Burr. He was doing this to either get Burr to either seek vengeance for Hamilton, or basically just to get Aaron Burr out of the picture. To what end, I don't know, beyond vengeance. But regardless, there came a point where Jefferson claimed that he had received a letter, evidence that Burr was clearly planning something. And this is evidence that he kept to himself, which, in a legal trial you are not supposed to do. This isn't Japan. You can't just walk up to Your Honor with new evidence and have that change the course of the trial. That's not how it works. This isn't Japan. This isn't Japanese court. This also isn't Ace Attorney. So the legal counsel asked to see this evidence. And Thomas Jefferson's response was an interesting bit of precedent setting, as it were, invoking his executive privilege to basically say, I don't have to show you a goddamn thing. He invoked executive privilege and essentially said, I have the evidence right here, and that should be reason enough for it to be seen as evidence. Abuse of power? Probably, but considering the circumstances, I imagine Jefferson did not care. But as it turns out, even though this letter of supposedly damning evidence was brought to the table, and was seen by Jefferson, and his account of it was told to the council and to the judge, Aaron Burr was acquitted on all counts. He didn't get off with so much as a misdemeanor. However, it also completely destroyed his reputation, and the reputation of John Marshall, who was one of the on the council tasked with defending him. Now, the reason why all of this is relevant, sad. The reason why all of this is relevant beyond the obvious of creating the precedent of executive privilege and how it can be abused in certain situations. It also let another political figure come into the limelight. This was actually one of Henry Clay's first cases. as in the Henry Clay. The Henry Clay that would go on to be one of the most influential speakers of the House in all of American politics. However, because... Oh wait, this is the back room of Rusted Factory, isn't it? Oh shoot, it is! What is the... Hang on, what is the shtick with this one? Like, there's some gimmick. Okay, right. Ugh. Weird. Do not like this music. RPG Maker stock child laugh sound, my beloved. Does she respawn? She doesn't. Interesting. Checkered Postal Path. I don't think I've actually seen this place. Chicken World, Lemon World. It's an Idirigop. Okay. But with Henry Clay being in, like, basically being in the legal council but not being at the forefront, he did not receive the same shame as everyone else who participated in this trial. And in fact, he used it as leverage to gain more political power, because at the time, he was just starting out. As for Burr himself, though, he may have been acquitted of all charges, but his reputation was still destroyed, his and John Marshall's. But his especially. He was receiving the pre-1800s equivalent of death threats, as people were burning effigies of both himself and John Marshall and other major players of that trial. And I imagine if he had stayed in the country in his present form, people would have burned his house down. So what he attempted to do was flee the country. But remember, again, consider the time period that this was coming around. This was... Actually, give me just a second. I had to double check my numbers. It was early 1800s when he assumed exile. So it was when everything had finally come to a head and all was said and done. 1808 was the date when he had first attempted. Now, as it happens, there aren't a lot of countries to go to if you're in early 1800s United States. Your options are England, France, and that's basically it. If you're talking like countries that the US actively trades with. Where's Everblue City? Oh, it's actually on the 3rd floor for once. Dang. Right, this place. I remember this place. If you equip Red Hood, they all, like, crowd around you. Look at them go. Okay. Yeah, checkered postal path is right down there. But, he first attempted to go to Britain. He was told to get lost. Then he attempted to go to France, and the French also told him to get lost. So he returned to the United States, changed his name, married a wealthy woman, made off with a good chunk of her fortunes, and used them to unsuccessfully basically gamble and land. They separated. And then he died single but in decent economic standing. And he doesn't get any cool stories like he doesn't get any like Thomas Jefferson still survives kind of stories. He kind of just died. And to this day, historians still kind of debate his character. Because on one hand, he did give to charity, but, you know, rich people giving to charity doesn't really mean a whole lot if it's deductible, that kind of a thing. And the other thing that I noticed that seemed interesting was that he supposedly he didn't show a lot of remorse for killing Alexander Hamilton. It's not as much as you would expect a man to, for ending someone else's life in a duel. This area is actually quite cool looking. I guess because there's no map, I imagine it's a dead end. But that is something that I kind of miss about older American politics, is that everything was a lot more connected in those early days. There is a connection to somewhere. Tomato World of all places, huh? I guess while I'm here, I'm curious about Evil Cube Zone. I don't think I've been there before. Everything was a lot more connected in the early days of American politics. Not to say they aren't connected now, but it was a lot more obvious. Because as it happens, American politics was ruled by the same 20 Protestant, the same 20 Protestant white dudes who owned land. So, oh my god, they make trombone sounds. I love them. They were all white, they were all Protestant, and most of them were Freemasons. So I guess it's fitting that they all kind of have the same thing. Wait a minute, if I do Eyeball Bomb here... I thought so. Finally, a use for Eyeball Bomb. Outside of the obvious. Is there a warp here? Kinda hoping there would be. Nah. Is there, like, some other gimmick? Aw. It's instinct. I have to respond with an Uro smunk. I guess let's try Soy Sauce World next. This is Maurice? This is Maurice. Alright. Let's not go in there. That's a scary place. I forgot about the music for this place. Oh. Ugh. These things are kind of disturbing. This entire area is kind of off-putting. Also, I was kind of thinking, I don't consider myself to be very good at making edited videos, but I think what I might do at some point is make a video that is entirely dedicated to me just talking about something weird at length. Kind of like what I did impromptu for the Aaron Bird thing. I just like sit down with a script while I wander around aimlessly. Or something like that. I feel like that could be fun. Because I've tried before to do edited videos, and I'm not particularly good at it. Hello, anime girl. You are just an anime girl. Interesting. But I feel like I'm at my best when I'm kind of just talking. And hey, it's the best of both worlds. It's scripted, so I don't take as many long pauses, and it's also... what's the word for it? It's scripted, so I don't take long pauses, but at the same time, I don't have to burden myself with a massive edited video project. So it works out. Kinda. Also, I don't think there's anything here. Besides the anime girl, of course. I've already visited all these areas, I think. I guess I tried Digital Alley, but then I'm just gonna... Yo! Oh my god. It's the disco floor. Hang on, let me, like... yeah, that does it. Screenshots you can only take in Yumatuki. Damn, okay. I didn't really have any other plans for today, but so I guess I'll call it here. Thanks so much for watching, I guess. See y'all next time.